Good morning, YouTube. Guess who got bored of eBay and discovered scientific research surplus auction sites? What we've got here are turbomolecular vacuum pumps, which are just like regular vacuum pumps, but for people with white-collar PhD jobs, not intended for we, the proletariat. They're way too expensive and we'll just ruin them. I bought these on account of look at it. All came as is, parts only, and one came with this nifty space-age controller, which I have a feeling we're gonna need. Made in Torino, Italy. Neat. That's northern Italy, and much like with the United States, the north tends to be less charming, but more modern, industrialized, and overall better. Given the hefty price of entry for this beautifully machined and clearly precision-engineered gadget, I've decided to throw caution to the wind, betray the ethos of this channel, and actually research it thoroughly before plugging it in. These are used most commonly in mass spectrometers. Mass spectrometers. One second. Mass spectrometers. I watched at least 3 videos on mass spectrometers, and I'm still not entirely sure how they work. The only things I gleaned from the videos were A, that they need an ultra-high vacuum, and B, they characterize molecules. Unlike a regular vacuum pump, these aren't standalone. They're a piggyback. And according to the forums, running one without the loving support of a good old-fashioned burble pump will burn them the f*** up. I have old Mallory here for evacuating AC systems, and she sucks really hard, so I think she'll do. I paid back all my student loans years ago, so until I can think of something else to suck on, I'm just going to slap a gauge on the inlet just to see the micron reading. I suppose I could give myself one hell of a hickey, though. First, I want to identify some ports. This will take all of my troubleshooting skills and technical wisdom. And by wisdom, I mean I'm going to Google it. Under this protective screen here is the inlet. Whatever you're sucking on gets bolted here. Look at those bearings. This is where I need to plumb Mallory in line with the turbo pump so she can do what she does best. And this is where the vent is supposed to go. I don't have a vent. I have a screw. Hot, hot, hot. Certain things are just nice to have around in the workshop. This assortment literally never has the exact size I want, but if I try sometimes, I get what I need. Ugh, it's lunchtime, methinks. And I'm all out of Reese's Christmas trees. If you go to CVS immediately after a major holiday, you can score all the holiday Reese's for cheap. About to go grab all the Valentine's Day hearts for half off before the Easter eggs come out. I remember Butterfingers tasting better. They just don't do it for me like a Reese's does. I want to start a Patreon where people send me Reese's. This is the electrical connection. There's 5 pins, 3 for the motor windings, 2 for an overtemp thermostat, and of course ground. I shouldn't have to worry about what any of that does, because with this bayonet connector, which happens to be keyed, you can only put it on one way. I could just bolt a steel plate onto here and weld a bung on for my gauge, but I'd like to see what's going on. It's YouTube. Introducing polycarbonate's less impact-resistant and more budget-friendly cousin, acrylic. I'm going to be doing this for the next 14 minutes, so feel free to skip ahead. One of these pumps came with this handy flange adapter installed. It even has a groove for this big, beefy O-ring. I don't know if this has anything to do with Agilent/Varian, who make the pumps. This might be a custom accessory, possibly made in-house by the manufacturer of the equipment to adapt these off-the-shelf pumps to fit their equipment. We may never know. This intermediate flange seal clearly goes, and then 4 aluminum clampy clamps every 90 degrees. Come on. That must be standard. I don't always cross-thread when I use power tools, but when I do, I prefer Milwaukee. The threads are standard, which is unusual for anything remotely scientific in nature, so this probably came from industry. This adapter, definitely made in an American machine shop and not by Agilent. A fresh bolt is not a tap. A fresh bolt is not a tap. Except when it works. Let's try metric. There's a nice number. It's a shame that the only thing that cures my crippling social anxiety also prevents me from drilling straight holes. This is gonna crack as soon as I torque it, isn't it? Some washers to distribute the force a little bit ought to help. I've never actually tapped holes in acrylic, but I'm going to try so I can install this 1/8" extension for my sensor.
Soon may the Wellerman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tonguing is done, we'll take our leave and go.
I wasn't getting positive contact all around the seal, so bigger washers. This air hose is the closest thing I have that might fit. I spent enough money on this video. I ain't buying more rubber hose, damn it. I knew what to do. Good enough. I got my fancy digital vacuum gauge here to test for leaks. That's not a camera frame rate issue, by the way. The LCD is just a little bit completely frozen. We seem to have hit a wall. See what happens if we isolate the pump. Yep, leaks like a French warship. Sacre bleu. Try tightening up my plug. It's not a plug, it's a bolt. A bolt is not a plug. Nothing. Cleaned off my TFE paste and resealed my threads with RTV. I'm also going to try cleaning out the O-ring channel and apply way too much silicone vacuum grease. That's good enough. I don't know about you, but to be this far in the video with no turbo pump action is unacceptable. The controller appears to have some sort of soft start feature. Vacuum is dropping precipitously, even though it's not spinning very fast, so I wonder if all those turbine blades were restricting the main pump, and now that they're spinning, it can just inhale a little easier. There it goes. The controller seems to ramp up in stages. I wonder how fast it'll go if I just let it run. That jumper looks custom made. I wonder if that dictates how the pump runs? Customizable options, maybe? Sit rep. It keeps decelerating all by itself after 15 minutes or so. If I unplug the controller and plug it back in, it ramps back up. Wash, rinse, repeat. Either my controller's a dud, or that over-temp sensor ain't happy. It pulled a good vacuum while it lasted, though. 4 microns. Yeah, she feels lukewarm, which, considering it's below freezing in here and it's running under a vacuum, that's concerning. I don't hear happy bearings. Candidate number 2. It's a different model, but the same manufacturer, and mercifully, the flange adapter bolts right up. Sounds a little louder off the bat. Pulling a tremendous vacuum, though. She's gonna blow! As soon as she's done sucking. Nice and cool to the touch, despite the extra noise. Smooth as the shit out of a duck's ass, too. I'm not sure what the safe way to shut these down is, so I'm just going to unplug the turbo pump and leave the main pump running until it coasts down gently. I got no problem blowing these up, it's just, the video's not over yet, you know? The third and final turbo pump. This one is missing the screen over the turbines, which has me concerned and a little aroused. I don't even think outer space is that complete a vacuum. For reference, in HVAC, we generally want to see 500 microns or less to be considered a deep vacuum. 2.6. It's a good thing I didn't do that with it running at full speed, he said ominously. Speaking of full speed, let's find out what that is. I got this China marker, which leaves a nice matte finish for my laser tack. You just pull this string. That doesn't look right. I have no idea how China markers work, or what they're actually for, or why they're called that. This is definitely not right, but when a door closes, the window breaks. I'm going to wait until some vacuum level is established before I power it up. She's ripping right up. Holy smokes. 64,800 RPM looks like cruising speed. But oh, no wonder it has to run under a vacuum. And look how consistent it is. Plus or minus 20 RPM with no speed sensor or feedback device for the controller. That's a fluctuation of like 1/100%. Wow. I'm curious what I can do with such a strong vacuum. What sort of fun experiments or practical applications might this have for the layman? Beef jerky might be fun to make, or maybe I should try that hickey thing after all. Or maybe something a little dirtier. I've got this spare HVAC service port fitting so I can hook my gauges up and connect the inlet of the pump to something. This is called a volumetric flask, according to the auction website, and they're expensive as hell new. Cheap used. Genuine Pyrex. Here's my thought. I love to snowboard, but I live on the East Coast. I just got back from my first ever trip to the Rockies, and our snow sucks compared to theirs. Their snow is not like magic or anything, it's so dry. No slush, no ice, it's fluffier, powderier. So I've got some genuine Pennsylvania snow, and I want to see if this ultra-high vacuum can desiccate some of the excess moisture, or if it simply sublimates. Yes, we really ski on this. They don't call it the Ice Coast for nothing. Let's go, baby. This one's overheating too. Can you hear it spooling down? Experiment failed. Screw this. Let's blow something up. I've read that suddenly venting these things to atmosphere shreds the turbines and creates fun for the whole family. Let's get it up to speed, and then I'm going to stand back and pull the top off with the paracord. And before you freak out, these were sold as is, and this is one of the ones that overheats, so there's a good reason for it. Party time. She's not gonna quit. Under the assumption that this dry winter air isn't molecularly dense enough to cause the desired calamity, I've added water to simulate a humid Pennsylvania July. I'm hoping when I yoink this off, at least some of this gets sucked in. Wait, isn't cold air denser? That did the trick. Cold air is denser, but water is densest. You can see missing blades from the top 2 stages at least. Let's ruin another one, but this time more systematically, academically. It's definitely a 2-piece assembly. It has 6 2.5mm screws. As it turns out, 2.5mm is the 10mm of hex keys, and mine are all gone. So I'm going to dip into the specialty toolbox for this one. I better move this. It is not replaceable. Oh. Lower bearing retainer. Exquisitely machined. And if you look, it has this built-in spring-loaded spring behind the floating bearing holder thing. Starting to see why these cost so much. Another O-ring. Not 100% sure, but this at least suggests that the bearings and rotor are under vacuum as well, which might be necessary because air friction is no joke at 65,000-ish RPM. There's something liberating about taking something apart you have no intention of reassembling. It's like eating sloppy Joe naked outside. Stay tuned for Lazy Acres Part 6. Here's the lathe spun turbine housing. It's made of super high quality aluminum. You know, you can tell.
But as she's getting ready to go, a knock comes on the door. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down on her head. Bang, bang, bang.
This is what I'm most excited about, the meat and potatoes. You can see the top 2 blades, but what's underneath? Interesting. Sandwiched in between the spinning blades are these stationary interlocking... Are they diffusers? I don't know. Someone who knows jet engines or turbochargers might know. Another spacer ring. But how do the turbine blades come off? And another pair of stamped diffusers. I don't know what they're actually called, but I'm going to call them diffusers because I have to call them something for the purposes of the video. Legend of the 10 Rings. All 9 stages are cast as one aluminum part. appears to be clamped on with set screws. And I know exactly what size. Wrong again, bucko. 8 set screws on top and 8 on bottom, and the only hex key out of my whole bucket of 1,000 hex keys that fits is 1 inch long. You know what? These set screws are going into blind holes. I don't think they're clamping anything. I bet you these are for balancing. The way this balancing system works is simple. As you move further from the center of rotation, the g-forces on a given weight increase. So if one side of your turbine needs more weight added to it, you would just take those set screws and back them out a little bit, and that would balance it. And because they're threaded, it's infinitely adjustable. It's really smart. Ugh. They're coming out very easily, though. No thread locker. You'd think having 16 set screws spinning at 65,000 RPM might back out over time and throw off the balance, but I guess not. Grr. Dare I? Before I trash this beautiful part, prying it off with a blunt instrument, let's take a ceremonial minute to appreciate the engineering. Notice how as you go from stage to stage, the angle of the blades decreases and the width of the blades increases linearly. A lot of calculus and CAD work went into this. And remember, this is one amazingly complicated casting. Incredible. There's your money. God damn. I don't usually see bearings held on with nuts. That might be a clue. Wonder if I can ugga-dugga that off. I need to hold the turbine steady without turning my hand into delicious Kraft shredded Parmesan cheese topping. That was anticlimactic. Here's the bearing. Probably not going to find this on the shelf at the store. Getting too old for this shit. Snap cage C36S Stay 39. BUK. That's not a Chinese-made steel ball bearing. BUK is Barton, made in the UK. This is a ceramic bearing. They don't corrode, and they wear better than stainless, but they don't tolerate abuse very well. It's still not coming off, so any mechanical sympathizers out there, please look away, because Daddy is all out of patience. Oh, that was surprisingly easy. 'Tis but a flesh wound. I'm hoping by the end of this video I still have one intact turbine assembly, because this makes one hell of a desk ornament. More balancing marks. Even a barcode, either for inventory or quality control purposes. These sure aren't cheap, so you want to keep track of them. So what's happening is the gas stream gets pulled through these turbine blades by the main pump, and as the blade edges spin at 500 miles an hour, it basically swats the air molecules down into the exhaust fitting and into the main pump's inlet. It's like an electric turbocharger boosting the vacuum pump. And if I had any confidence that this would survive the hot, grimy environment under the hood of a car, I'd be awfully tempted to try and build a free electric supercharger. Here's the turbine assembly from the one I tried to drown, because I know one of you scallywags is going to call me out for not taking this apart too. As you can see, the top 2 stages took the brunt of the damage here. Here's the induction drive rotor. Tiny little thing, but super powerful. Autographed and balanced. upper bearing retainer with the same ceramic bearing. Ugh. Doesn't sound great. What am I missing here? Oh yeah, electrical. Look how dainty these wires are to get this much power out of such small wires. The two white wires are for the thermostat. Right? Oh, it's a thermistor. Okay, so there's software on the controller actively monitoring the temperature, not just checking to see if it's open or closed. That's why unplugging it and plugging it back in actually made it work temporarily. I reset the software. I apologize if my barbaric treatment of these expensive machines offended anyone. I assure you these were bought for pennies on the dollar as parts only, and clearly they were on their way to their trash eventually. All I did was extract one last use out of them before they met their inevitable demise. They're cool as heck. And so are you. Thanks for watching. Means a lot. Ooh. Ooh. Ow. Let go. Let go. Explain that one to the wife. Make her jealous.